Good morning, children. So today let us will see the nationalism and imperialism. This is the last concept of this lesson, right? So already you know about the nationalism. So today we are going to learn about the imperialism. So how did the nationalism turn into the imperialism? So now let us see during the last quarter of the 19th century. During the last quarter of the 19th century, what happened in Europe? The nationalism turned into the imperialism. Okay, in which era the nationalism turned into the imperialism? In the last quarter of the 19th century. This is most important and you have to remember this era, right? So see, during the last quarter of the 19th century, the nationalism turned into the imperialism. Okay, imperialism. So what does the imperialism? So what do you mean by the imperialism? So imperialism means, see, the policy of extending the country or influence. Okay, the policy of extending the country or influence through the wars, okay, through the colonization, through the extension of their territories. So how the nationalism turned into the imperialism? So how did the European countries turn into development or extension of their territories, right? So about this now we will discuss in this class. Okay, see, the Balkan, right? The Balkan force was emerged in the year 1871. Okay, 1871. So the high tension was raised in Balkan states in the year 1871. So which were the Balkan states? Okay, which were the Balkan states? See, the Balkan was a region of the geographical and ethnic variations comprising the modern day of Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, Greece, Macedonia, Croatia, right? Then Slovenia, Serbia and Montenegro. So now what we are calling that countries, no? That all countries were called Balkan states in the year 1871. Okay, so in the last quarter of the 19th century, what happened in the Balkan states, you know? In the Balkan state, see, the nationalism turned into the imperialism. Okay, all the Balkan states were trying to extend their countries, or they were trying to extend their territories through the wars or through the romanticism. Okay, through the romanticism. So which were the Balkan states? Just I said, these all were the Balkan states in the 1871 or in the last quarter of the 19th century. So that Balkan states now we are calling as a Romania, see, Bulgaria, Albania, Greece, Macedonia, Slovenia, Serbia and Montenegro. These all countries were Balkan states in the last quarter of the 19th century. So now let us see, the spread, large of the Balkans was under the control of the Ottoman Empire. So these all Balkan states were under the control of Ottoman Empire in the early 19th and 18th century. So as you know about the Balkan states and Ottoman Empire. So Ottoman Empire was basically ruled by the Muslim Empire, right? So which was established in the 13th century. So under the Ottoman Turks or under the Ottoman Empire, these all Balkan states were controlling by the king. So those days what happened? The Balkans were started their imperialism. They were started to develop, or they were started to extend their countries' territories, right, through the wars and romanticism movement, or you call the cultural movement. See, the spread of the ideas of romantic nationalism in Balkans and the disintegration of the Ottoman Empire made these regions explosive. Okay, so how did the Balkan states were explosive during those days? Because of the disintegration of the Ottoman Empire. This was used by the Balkan states, and that Balkan states were become explosive during the 18th and mid of the 19th century. See, the spread of the ideas of romantic nationalism. So about the romantic nationalism already we studied in previous class, right? So what we discussed in that class, the romantic nationalism or the cultural movement, how the cultural movement was spreaded nationalism awareness among us, the European peoples, through the poem, through the stories, right, through the dramas, through the folk songs and folk dances. So through that the Romanticism was created the awareness of the nationalism among the illiterate people of the European people. So this was also influenced on the Balkan state. How? The romantic nationalism in Balkan and the disintegration of the Ottoman Empire. See these two concepts, the disintegration of the Ottoman Empire and the ideas of romantic nationalism. These two were raised the Balkan states to fight or to get their independence from the Ottoman Empire. Okay, Ottoman Empire. Later what happened? The Balkan people used history to prove that they had once independence. So how did the Balkan peoples were started their movement? So they were given awareness to their peoples once they had independence. So that awareness or that informations they had given to their peoples. So before, in the Ottoman Empire, the Balkan states, they had a independence, right? That independence awareness they spreaded among the Balkan peoples in the early 19th century. Okay, early 19th century, and they thought of the struggle to win back their lost independence. So after that what happened? The Balkan states peoples were decided to start the struggle to get back their independence, which was lost under the Ottoman Empire. Okay, Ottoman Empire. So here just once you remember how did the Balkan peoples were explored, how did the Balkan peoples were started the imperialism amongst the Balkan states. Okay, Balkan states. So first how it was started, the romantic nationalism and disintegration of the Ottoman Empire was given the chance to the Balkan states to become a explorer against the Ottoman Empire. So later what happened? They had realized about their previous independence, and later they had struggled to get back their independence from the Ottoman Empire. So now see, now the Balkan area become an area of intense conflict. So when did this whole process were began in the Balkan state? So what happened? The Balkan area became, okay, Balkan areas become an area of intense conflict. So the problems were arised amongst the Balkan states when the peoples got awareness about their previous independence, when the romantic nationalism was spreaded, when the disintegration was raised amongst the Ottoman Empire. This all were led the Balkan area become an intense conflict. Okay, intense conflict. So later the Balkan states were fiercely jealous of each other and each helped to the territory expansion at the cost of the other. So later what happened amongst the Balkan states? So they had jealous each other for extension of their territories. Okay, expansion of their territories. So when they got awareness, so when the Balkan states were started the imperialism, that time what happened? The conflict was raised, and what happened? The Balkan states were, see, the fiercely jealous of each other. Okay, so they started jealous each other in the Balkan state, and each helped of territories expansion at the cost of the other. So the Balkan states were helped each other to get the independence from the Ottoman Empire. See, during this period there was intense rivalry among the European powers. So during this period what happened? There were a intense, okay, there were a force competition among the European peoples. Okay, European people. So those days or those period what happened? There were a high competitions among the European powers. So which were the European powers? You might know about the country's name. So each powers like Russia, Germany, England, Austria, Hungary were keen on holding power over the Balkans. Okay, over the Balkans. So these European powers were keen on the holding powers over the Balkan states. So these countries were holding the powers over the Balkan states during those days. Okay, so these all conflicts, especially this led to the serious series of wars in the regions, and finally the First World War was started. Okay, the First World War was started when the European powers had controlled over the Balkan states. So that time what happened? See, this was led the serious wars among the countries. So finally this was led the First World War. Okay, First World War. So 5 marks question will ask on this concept. Okay, ask on this concept. You have to remember these all points to remember for your examinations. Okay, so how they will ask? So how did the Balkan states were causes to lead the First World War? Okay, 5 marks question. How did the Balkan states were causes to lead the First World War? So these all points you have to remember and write well. Okay, I hope you understand about the concept. Which one? The nationalism and imperialism. Okay, so how did the nationalism turn into the imperialism? So the case of the Balkans, the tension of the Balkans. So how did the Balkan states became free, and how did the Balkan states went under the control of the European peoples, how the wars began between the countries, and how the Balkan